On the morning of September 11, 2001, the world watched in horror as terrorist attacks unfolded on U.S. soil. Four commercial airplanes were hijacked by terrorists, two of which were flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, causing them to collapse. Another plane struck the Pentagon, the nerve center of the U.S. military, while the fourth, United Airlines Flight 93, crashed in a Pennsylvania field after passengers attempted to fight back. For many, the official narrative provided by the U.S. government and the mainstream media seemed clear. Al-Qaeda, a terrorist group led by Osama bin Laden, was responsible for the attacks. But for others, a deep sense of unease lingered. What if there was more to the story? What if the attacks were not just the work of foreign terrorists, but involved complicity or even orchestration by factions within the U.S. government itself? It didn't take long for suspicions to surface. From the very first moments after the attacks, a growing number of people began questioning the official version of events. Some believed that the government's response, or lack thereof, was too convenient. Why hadn't the military intercepted the hijacked planes before they struck their targets? Why were there reports of war games taking place that mirrored the events of the attacks, creating confusion and delays? One of the biggest areas of concern was the collapse of the World Trade Center buildings. While the official explanation was that the impact of the planes, along with the fires that followed, caused the buildings to collapse, many experts and witnesses believed otherwise. The buildings fell in a manner that seemed too precise, almost like a controlled demolition. Some even pointed to the speed and symmetry of the collapse, which suggested that the towers might have been rigged with explosives beforehand. Perhaps the most suspicious piece of the puzzle, however, was the collapse of World Trade Center Building 7, a 47-story skyscraper located near the Twin Towers. Unlike the Twin Towers, Building 7 wasn't hit by an airplane, yet it still collapsed later that afternoon. Many were shocked to see the building fall in a manner identical to a controlled demolition, with the roof falling straight down into the basement. The official explanation was that the building collapsed due to fires caused by debris from the Twin Towers, but many found this explanation unconvincing, given the building's relatively small fires and its unusual collapse. Over the years, a wide variety of alternative theories have emerged, each claiming that the U.S. government, or elements within it, had prior knowledge of the attacks or were directly involved. Some suggest that key figures in the government allowed the attacks to happen as a way to justify military action in the Middle East, leading to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Others claim that the U.S. government actively planned and executed the attacks, using them as a pretext to expand surveillance powers, strip citizens of civil liberties, and usher in the so-called War on Terror. One of the most prominent claims is that the attacks were a false flag operation, where an event is carried out by one group or government but blamed on another to create public support for war or other agendas. Proponents of this theory suggest that powerful elites, including those in the U.S. military-industrial complex, stood to benefit from the chaos that followed the attacks. Another piece of the puzzle involves the Pentagon attack. While the government claims that American Airlines Flight 77 was hijacked and crashed into the Pentagon, some believe that the damage to the building doesn't match what would be expected from a commercial airliner crash. Witnesses reported seeing a small, fast-moving object before the Pentagon was struck, leading some to speculate that it may have been a missile, not a plane. As the years passed, more and more individuals came forward, raising questions about the official story. Engineers, architects, and demolition experts have pointed to the implausibility of the Twin Towers collapse, suggesting that controlled demolition is the most likely explanation. Eyewitnesses reported hearing explosions before the buildings fell, further fueling suspicions of a coordinated demolition. Additionally, many whistleblowers claimed that there were warnings prior to the attacks that were ignored or suppressed. Some reports suggest that U.S. intelligence agencies had prior knowledge of the hijackers and their plans but failed to act on the information. Despite the mountains of evidence and the passionate testimonies of people on both sides, the official narrative remains largely unchanged. Official investigations like the 9/11 Commission report have concluded that Al-Qaeda was solely responsible for the attacks, but critics argue that the investigation was incomplete and failed to address key questions. The 9/11 inside job theory continues to be a source of heated debate, with many people still convinced that the truth has not been fully revealed. The question remains, was it simply a tragic series of events orchestrated by terrorists, or was there a deeper, darker agenda at play? In the end, only time will tell whether the real story of September 11th will ever fully come to light, or if it will remain one of the greatest mysteries of our time.